I want to talk about Sam Howell and the Washington Commanders one more time. I fully understand that he has been traded from the Washington Commanders and he is now with the Seattle Seahawks. I hope the next quarterback that the Washington Commanders have on this roster, whether it is Sam Howell or Jaden Daniels, or somehow they trade for the first overall pick and they get Caleb Williams, because anything is possible. I hope that they protect them and they do a better job with that quarterback than what they did with Sam Howell. Sam Howell was thrusted into one of the worst situations in NFL history. This wide receiving core was good on paper. Terry McLaurin, very good wide receiver, over 1,000 yards receiving in every season in his career. Jahan Dotson has struggled to elevate at that next level, and he's not a bad wide receiver. I'm not saying that. But for them to select him in the first round, he needs to play better, and he has to be more consistent on the field dealing with those injuries. But he's been a solid wide receiver. Curtis Samuel, great speed, can go out there, get open. I think that he'll have a very good stint with the Buffalo Bills. But they were in the bottom of the league in terms of separation of wide receivers. And it wasn't all on the players. Because you look at Sam Howell, the kid did go out there. He threw a lot of interceptions. He led the league in interceptions. He led the league in complete turnovers. I fully understand that. But coaching held this kid back with Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy was one of the worst offensive coordinators in Commanders history. And we can even take it back with Redskins history, because that's the part of history with this team. That's what they used to be called. Eric Bieniemy was the same guy that people were saying he should be a head coach. Why are guys like Matt Nagy getting jobs? Why are guys like Coach Eberflus getting jobs and Eric Bieniemy's not getting a job? He got completely exposed when he was the offensive coordinator with the Washington Commanders. The Washington Commanders led the NFL in pass attempts, but yet they had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. And a matter of fact, the worst offensive line in the NFL in terms of pass protection and run blocking. They were terrible. Sam Howell was the most sacked, most hit, and most pressured quarterback by far. The second most was Bryce Young. This kid was hit over 110 times in the season. And yet he never dealt with injuries. He didn't complain, and he kept his spirits high on the sideline. And I fully understand why Adam Peters went out there and he traded this kid, because he did not draft this quarterback. I understand why he did what he did. I'm not going to blame Adam Peters for this, because Adam Peters did not bring in Coach Bieniemy. That was a Ron Rivera decision. Ron Rivera was a horrible head coach as well with this team. This is a team that should have figured out this quarterback situation a long time ago. But to say that Sam Howell was not a good quarterback with the Washington Commanders is just wrong. The kid went in there in his second year and did the best that he could with what they gave him with that offensive front. They went out there and they got Andrew Wiley a couple years ago. He's been a terrible tackle with this team. From tackle to tackle, this offensive line was horrible. You did have one solid offensive lineman and Sam Cosmi. That's it, but he's solid at best. When I look at this Washington Commanders offensive line, they're still going to have some problems, but you're bringing in a good center and Tyler from the Dallas Cowboys. I hope that he can be very good moving forward with this team, because they're going to need to go out there and fix this offensive line. That's it. You have him and Sam Cosmi at the guard position. Those are going to be your two best offensive linemen. They cut Charles Leno, good. But when you look at what Sam Howell had to deal with, no run game. Offensive line is terrible. The most time that he had in the offensive line was 3.3 seconds. And that was in the opening game of the season. That was it. When he had a clean pocket, he looked good. He had 21 passing touchdowns. And for majority of the season, he was top 10 in passing yards. With 3,946 passing yards when the season ended, he was 12th in passing yards. But they also took him out of the game as well. Ron Rivera put in Jacoby Brissett. And there's going to be some fans that come out and say, well, Jacoby Brissett, the offense looked better. Jacoby Brissett is a veteran quarterback. He's been in the NFL longer. And also this as well. NFL defenses were not game planning for Jacoby Brissett. Look at what Sam Darnold did against the Baltimore Ravens. He came in and he moved the ball at a better pace than Brock Purdy. Then at that point, the game was already out of hand. Against the New York Jets, yes, he was making a comeback in that game. But at the same time, he was dealing with pressure up front as well in the same situation, because they could not run the football enough with Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson. And they did not attempt to run the football enough with those guys because of the horrible play calling by Eric Bieniemy. One thing that I will say Dan Quinn has gotten right already is by getting rid of Eric Bieniemy. It's a reason why he's never been a head coach in the NFL, and he will never be a head coach in the NFL. It is best for him to be at that college level. Kansas City Chiefs players, they may love him, but he was only good with the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is a fact. Even going back to his Colorado days, he had some issues on and off the field with the play calling. Why do you have this kid in shotgun majority of the season? Forget majority in one game. Majority of the season, they're in shotgun, running the same base plays over and over again. He came out and he tried to basically treat this kid like he was Patrick Mahomes. And he tried to act like he was Andy Reid 2.0, and that's not the case. You did not have the personnel for that, and you had a young quarterback that was essentially in his rookie season because he only played one game in his rookie season. And that was the last game of the season against the Dallas Cowboys. And he had a beautiful pass in that game that went for 50 yards to Terry McLaurin. This is a kid that had a strong arm, was throwing guys open, and was able to extend the play. If you put any other quarterback in that situation, they would have been broken down already. And I will give Bryce Young credit as well. I'm very surprised these quarterbacks have not dealt with injuries because of terrible offensive line play and terrible coaching. The way that they did Sam Howell was disgusting because they never really did give a kid a full chance. Yes, you let him start in his second season, and that was it. But you had a coach in Ron Rivera that they knew was not going to be the long-term answer to that position. But they cannot really do anything because they just bought the franchise from Dan Snyder. Now they're wiping everything away and they're starting completely over. All that I want to see is that the next quarterback that they have, that they will put them in a better situation than they ever did with Sam Howell. And I'm not trying to call out guys like Terry McLaurin. Like I mentioned before, he's been their only consistent offensive playmaker since they drafted him. That's it. They made the playoffs a couple years ago with Taylor Heineke. They looked good. But I'm talking about this season that just ended, how they did Sam Howell. Then you trade this kid away to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks, they have a major star if they can treat Sam Howell right while he continues to develop behind Geno Smith. As far as the Washington Commanders, you're starting over. Adam Peters, I hope that they go in there, they could put their heads together with the owner, and they could possibly go out there and get their next franchise quarterback. Because if they cannot protect this next quarterback, you're going to be in the same situation all over again. A bunch of sacks and possibly injuries as well. And I want to see the Washington Commanders be a top-tier team in the NFC because of what they have been through in the last couple of years. And I like their free agency. They're bringing in some veterans. Like I mentioned before in the previous video, you brought in Jeremy Chin, solid safety. Bobby Wagner, solid veteran linebacker. Frankie Louvu, I like his game a lot. So you're bringing in some good defensive players that fit the system of Dan Quinn. You have Sam Cosmi. You have Tyler now at the center position from Dallas Cowboys. So you're making some moves, but you also have to go out there and get some better wide receiving production as well. Yes, you have Jahan Dotson. Yes, you have Terry McLaurin, but you have to get another guy in there to help out this young quarterback that you're going to be selecting in the first round. And if you think that they're going to go with Marcus Mariota to be the starting quarterback, you're kidding yourself. And Sam Howell is a better quarterback than Marcus Mariota. He is. Marcus Mariota is what he is at this point in his career. He's an older quarterback. He's a veteran, but he's a bust for when he came out in Oregon. The guy was a second overall pick. They could have at least had Sam Howell to be a backup option with this team. And I understand the other side of that coin as well. The first thing that was going to happen, you have that rookie go out there and he doesn't look like a star. The fans are going to call for Sam Howell and say, hey, Sam Howell made these throws. Sam Howell looked better in these situations. And I could be wrong about Sam Howell. He could just be a turnover-prone gunslinger. That is possible. But with the plays that he was able to make this season, I think there's something special with this kid. And I think that the Washington Commanders gave up on him way too soon. Look at those 2 games against the Philadelphia Eagles. He led them back into the game, into overtime, and won the games against the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a Sunday game, October the 1st. He was 29 of 41 for 290 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. Then they also had that tough game against the Chicago Bears, but that wasn't his fault because they could not guard DJ Moore. We're talking about a team that was completely broken. Their defense could not guard anyone, and the offensive line could not go out there and they cannot protect a parked car. So when I look at everything that was going on with this team, no quarterback is going to be able to work with this team, including Patrick Mahomes. Look at what Patrick Mahomes did against Tampa Bay Buccaneers when his offensive line was terrible. He barely had any key plays in that Super Bowl, and he still played well. So 2 things can be true. The offensive line was bad, the play calling was bad, and the Washington Commanders completely failed Sam Howell. Those are 3 things, and he could be a gunslinging quarterback. But that's what he is. You look at what the NFL has done now with young quarterbacks. It's pretty much a complete 180 from what they used to do. They used to let guys develop. They used to stick with them. Now, if you're not good within the first 2 years, they're ready to move off you. And you look at this quarterback class. You have Brock Purdy in this quarterback class. He's been a superstar. He's been phenomenal, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. You have Kenny Pickett. He was a bust with the Steelers. You have Malik Willis. He's no good with the Tennessee Titans. You have Desmond Ridder. He was a turnover-prone quarterback with the Atlanta Falcons. He's been traded now to Arizona Cardinals. Just like how Kenny Pickett was traded today to the Philadelphia Eagles. And they just traded this kid, Sam Howell, to the Seattle Seahawks. And the two best quarterbacks in this class would be Brock Purdy and Sam Howell. But let me know in the comment section below, am I tripping about this? Is Sam Howell no good, or do I have a valid point right here that the Washington Commanders failed this kid and they gave up on him too soon? Because I really do believe this, and I saw it throughout the season. You give him some time in the pocket, he can dissect some NFL defenses, and he can go out there and he can put in some major work with that arm. He threw 4 interceptions against the Buffalo Bills, but in that game he was sacked 9 times. And they only ran the football 13 times in that game. There were no slide protection to go out there and help out a guy like Sam Howell that came from Bieniemy. They just ran that scat protection to where you just have 5 guys out and that's it. And they're sending blitzes off the edge. That's another reason why Bieniemy is not a head coach in the NFL. And that's another reason why the Kansas City Chiefs did not bring him back. He came out and he basically lied and said, hey, that he was not fired from the Washington Commanders. If that was the case, why did Dan Quinn come out and say, hey, we're moving on from him. We're going to bring in Cliff Kingsbury. You were fired. And rightfully so. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. And I think the Seattle Seahawks have a true winner. Peace.